Let your body fall gently into the warmth of your bed, the silence of the hour, the stillness of now. Close your eyes if you haven't already. The modern world will wait for you. Tonight, you'll drift backward, back through centuries of stone and shadow, past the dust of history books, beyond the noise of kings and crowns. Tonight, you will not just hear about royalty, you will become it, and you'll learn what they never told you, that the higher you climb in a palace, the more you carry. And sometimes, the crown isn't heavy with gold, it's heavy with something you can't see, something colder, something older, something cursed. The year is 1444, and you were born into power. You do not remember your mother's arms, but you remember the perfume on the blanket they wrapped you in. Crushed roses, clove, the scent of silk that's been worn too long. Your name was whispered before it was spoken aloud, written on scrolls before it ever passed through your own lips. You were meant to lead, or be led, or become a pawn between two titles you'll never fully understand. You are 10 years old when you first see a beheading. You are told not to cry. You do not. The crowd cheers. The priest prays. The man's head rolls down the slope beside the chapel. You are told he was dangerous. You are told he betrayed your father. You are told it is justice, but you remember his eyes more than the crime. They looked disappointed. No one explains that part. At 13, your portrait is painted. You are instructed not to smile. Smiling is for peasants or liars. Your neck is wrapped in lace, your face powdered until you disappear beneath yourself. The painter asks you to tilt your chin upward. Like a saint, he says, but saints, you think, don't live in palaces. At night, you sleep beneath a canopy of velvet, stitched by hands you'll never meet. The sheets smell of lavender and ink. Your chamber is large, but not silent. Stone breathes, wood creaks. Voices carry through walls that were never meant to keep secrets. You pretend not to hear your brother weeping in the next room, or the servants whispering about what they found in the well. No one talks about the well during the day. There are stories about a girl who fell, or jumped, or was pushed. You've never asked which version is true. You're not sure it matters. Truth here is a costume. It changes shape depending on who wears it. One evening, you find a folded note beneath your dinner plate. No name, no seal, just 3 words. You are next. You do not show anyone. You do not eat that night. You wait for morning like a soldier waits for war. Silent, stiff, almost still, but nothing happens. Not that night, not the next, not the next year. You keep the note anyway, pressed between 2 pages of a hymn book you no longer read. There are moments of joy. A horse you're allowed to ride. A servant girl who sings as she brushes your hair. A cousin who shows you a hidden passage through the eastern garden. But even joy feels rehearsed, like a play that everyone pretends is real, because at the end of the day, someone always disappears. A cook, a clerk, a distant aunt who asks too many questions about inheritance. You ask nothing. You learn early that questions echo, and echoes are dangerous. At 16, your father is poisoned. They say it was the wine. They say it was the stew. They say it was the kiss from a foreign bride. They say many things, but none of them say he screamed. And he did. You heard it. From your chamber beneath the tapestries, his voice, thicken and gurgling like boiling oil, a sound that stuck to the walls long after they scrubbed the blood away. You do not drink wine after that, not even on holy days. You tell them it gives you headaches. They nod, but they know better. Everyone knows better. You begin to keep a candle burning through the night, even when it melts to nothing, even when the wax pools on the floor like milk. You tell yourself it's for the light, but really, it's for the heat, the warmth, the only proof that the darkness hasn't won. Not yet. You lie awake most nights, not out of fear, out of instinct, because sleep is a luxury. And in palaces like this, luxuries often come with a price. There's a knock at your door, not loud, not urgent, but deliberate. You don't answer. You wait, and eventually, the sound fades, but the presence doesn't. Because in this place, knocks don't need doors. They find their way into your thoughts, your sleep, your silence. You wake the next morning to news. The queen is taken ill, or so they say. Some say it was her own doing, a tonic too strong, a prayer too desperate. Some say it was the bishop, that his sermons came with more than scripture, and others, the ones who never speak above a whisper, say it was the curse again. You do not speak at breakfast. No one does. The room smells like burnt bread and rose oil, and something else, something sour. A servant drops a pitcher. It shatters, and no one moves, not even the king. Because everyone knows what broken glass means here. It means something is ending, or beginning, or worse, repeating. You walk the halls with your hands behind your back. It makes you look composed, like a ruler, like someone with nothing to hide. But really, it's to keep your fingers from trembling. You pass a mirror. This one's smaller. Framed in dark wood, you see your face, but not your eyes. They've grown quieter, more practiced, less curious. You tell yourself it's just what happens with age. But deep down, you know. You're already turning into them. The ones who ruled before, the ones whose portraits line the chapel walls. Eyes too wide, shoulders too still, mouths too small for the truths they carried. At council meetings, you listen more than you speak. You nod, you sign, you pretend to understand, but none of it feels real. Numbers, borders, war. They speak of countries like you speak of memories, softly, cautiously, as if one wrong word could undo everything. At night, you return to your chamber. Someone has cleaned your bedding. The candle is fresh. The scent of beeswax fills the room, warm and faintly sweet. You sit at the edge of the bed. You remove the ring from your finger, the one passed down for 4 generations, the one with the crest that no longer matches your own bloodline. You place it on the table, but it feels heavier now, like it knows what's coming, like it always has. There's a journal on the nightstand. You haven't written in it for months, not since the dream, the one where your brother stood at the foot of your bed, eyes hollow, whispering your name backward. You tell yourself it was just a dream, but dreams don't leave footprints. And you never asked the maid why she scrubbed mud from the floor the next morning. You pull the covers over you, wool layered with linen, layered with silence. The fire is down to embers, soft orange glow, soft breathing, but your eyes remain open, not out of fear, out of duty, because kings don't close their eyes too early, and queens learn never to close both at the same time. You hear laughter, somewhere far, the wine hall, maybe, or a memory. You close your eyes for just a moment, and you see her again, The girl in the crimson dress, dancing with no music, eyes blindfolded, feet red with something that isn't paint. You open your eyes. The ceiling stares back. Carved angels, carved monsters, all the same now. The fire sighs, the wind returns, and you lie still, not asleep, not awake, just still. Morning arrives without sunlight. The sky is a bruised gray, wrapped in fog. No trumpets, no bells, just the sound of distant hooves on wet stone, and someone coughing in the corridor. You rise before the knock comes. You always do. The servant enters, eyes low, holding a tray. Bread, figs, something warm in a chipped bowl. You don't ask what it is. You never do. You nod once, and they vanish like smoke. The room is colder than it was yesterday. The window has frozen around the edges. It looks like lace, like something that was once delicate and has since turned dangerous. You dress slowly. The wool is scratchy, the collar too high. The gold-threaded cuffs dig into your wrists, but you wear them anyway, because appearance is armor, and you've learned how to fight without moving. You pass through the great hall. The fire hasn't been lit yet. Ashes sit in the hearth like someone's memory. Your boots echo. They always do. No one greets you, not because they don't see you, but because they do. And they've learned it's safer not to speak until spoken to. You take your seat at the council table, the same table your uncle bled on, the same table they covered in lilies the next morning, the same lilies that never truly lost the scent of iron. Parchments are passed, names are read, numbers are mumbled, but you aren't listening. You're watching the candle, the way the wax runs toward the edge of the wooden tray, as if trying to escape. You wonder how many candles have melted in this room. How many nights have burned down to stubs in silence. You glance toward the window again, but the fog is thicker now. Even the view is retreating. Someone says your name. You look up. A question was asked. You don't know what it was, but you nod, and they seem satisfied, because here, approval matters more than answers, and silence is often safer than truth. You spend the afternoon with the physician. He doesn't touch you, he just looks, eyes behind thick glass, hands behind his back. He asks about your sleep. You lie. He nods. He offers a tonic. You decline. You both understand each other perfectly, because here, illness is political, and tiredness is weakness. You return to your chamber before sunset. The corridors are long. The tapestries move on their own. You once believed it was the wind. Now you're not so sure. You pass a maid, one you've never seen. She curtsies too quickly, eyes wide. You wonder what she knows, what she's seen, who she's buried. The fire is already lit in your room. Strange, no one lights it this early. You check the hearth. The logs are old, not from today, and yet the flames flicker, bright, unsteady, as if just lit by someone who didn't stay. You sit by the window. The fog hasn't lifted. You can't see the courtyard, or the statues, or the grave where your sister rests beneath unmarked stone. They said it was fever. They said it took her quickly. They said she didn't suffer, but you remember her eyes, and eyes don't lie the way words do. You close your own, just for a moment, and in that moment, you hear music, a single string, a low, slow note that could be a song or a warning. You open your eyes. There's no one there, only the fire, only the fog, only the silence. You don't leave your chamber for the evening feast. No one knocks, no one calls your name, which means they expected you not to come, which means they understand. The meal would have been the same anyway: roasted game, bitter greens, silverware polished to shine in candlelight, but dull in taste. Laughter too loud, smiles too sharp. Every bite weighed heavier than it should. You sit by the window instead. Your fingers trace the frost on the glass like a map you've walked before. There is a procession passing through the courtyard. You can't see their faces, only the motion. Black hoods, slow steps, a cart that doesn't creak. Funerals move quietly here. There is no mourning, not in public. Grief is a luxury too dangerous to display. You whisper her name, the one they buried last winter, not your sister, another cousin, or a niece, or a girl who laughed like your sister did, just once and never again. You're not sure anymore. The dead blend together when no one says their names out loud. Your candle wavers. You move closer to it, not because it's dark, but because you don't trust what happens in the shadows. The stories used to be told as warnings. Now they're told as inevitabilities. There was a boy, they say, who went to bed whole and woke up blind. No illness, no injury, just darkness. The priests called it a curse. The old queen called it justice. No one asked what he had seen the night before. You lie back against the pillows. One is stuffed with goose down, the other with something heavier, not lead, not stones, just the weight of things unsaid. The ceiling above you glows faintly orange. The fire flickers without sound now. Only the soft rustle of old pages in the corner bookshelf. You haven't opened a book in months. You stopped when the margins started showing notes in a handwriting that wasn't yours. Some in Latin, some not at all. One simply said, "They remember." You don't know who they are. You're not sure you want to. You close your eyes again. This time longer. This time softer. You breathe through your nose. Slow, steady. You try not to listen, but the castle is never silent. Not really. There's the draft along the floorboards, the hum of the tapestries moving slightly when no one is near. The click, just once, of something metal where there should be wood. You do not move. You do not call out. You let the sound pass through you like a prayer, because fear is a current here. It only catches you if you resist. A soft knock, then another, then silence. You wait. The knock doesn't return. You sleep with the candle lit again, though it shortens with every breath. You sleep like you always do, half hoping to wake, half hoping not to. The morning arrives not with sunlight, but with bells. Not cheerful ones, slow, 3 notes, space between each one, like breaths drawn between sobs. Someone is dead again. You don't rise right away. You lie still beneath the weight of sleep you never earned, trying to count how many funerals this makes. This month, this year, this reign. You've lost track, and maybe that's the worst part, the not knowing or the not caring. You finally sit up. The room is dim. The candle is gone. The fire is ash. Your robe is waiting where the maid left it, folded too neatly, like she didn't want to touch it longer than necessary. It smells of cedar and the past. You wear it anyway. Down the hall, others are gathering, the whisper of soft slippers on stone, silk brushing against wool, the occasional cough disguised as a sigh. You walk slower than usual, not from grief, from caution. Everyone watches more closely when someone dies, not out of sadness, but out of calculation. Death shifts the balance, and balance is everything here. At the chapel door, you pause. There are already too many faces. Some you know, some you don't, some who shouldn't be here at all. You take your place on the wooden bench, hands folded, eyes down. The priest begins. He speaks of virtue and divine right and God's timing. He doesn't say the man screamed for hours before he passed. He doesn't say the blood soaked through 2 mattresses. He doesn't say the windows were boarded shut and still something flew out, but you heard it. Everyone did. No one mentions the candle that exploded, or the guard who ran from his post, or the whisper that said, "Too late," just as the bell began. Because silence is currency, and truth is debt. After the prayers, the body is taken down the north corridor. You don't follow. You slip through the servant passage instead, the one lined with oil lamps that never stay lit for long. You don't remember when you first found it, but it knows your steps now. The walls curve inward, as if they're listening, as if they already know where you're going. You find the small door behind the old wardrobe. It opens with no sound. The room beyond it hasn't changed. A desk, a stool, a shelf of books written in a dialect no one teaches anymore. And on the wall, scratched into plaster, just deep enough to see in the right light, a name. Yours. Not your full name, just the one your sister used, the one only she ever whispered, the night before they said she fell. You sit. You place your hands on the desk, though you're not sure why. There's a scrap of parchment left behind. No ink. But still, it's not blank. It's warm, as if someone just held it, and it smells of rosemary. Your mother used to burn rosemary when someone in the family had bad dreams. You think of that now, not because you need comfort, but because you've stopped having dreams at all, not since that night by the well, not since the child in the mask told you your blood wasn't real. You don't know what that meant, but you've never looked in a mirror the same way since. You hear footsteps, not near, not heavy, just enough to remind you this room isn't forgotten. You leave the paper, you do not touch the books, you close the door behind you, and when you return to the hall, no one has noticed you were gone, because that's the curse, not the blood, not the death, not the silence. It's being visible, always, and never seen. Later that evening, the halls are quieter than usual, not peaceful, just quieter, like something is holding its breath. Dinner is served in silver dishes, pomegranate seeds, roast duck, wine too dark to see through. You eat little, you smile less. The others, cousins, generals, women with veils and secrets, laugh too loudly. Their mouths move, but their eyes flick constantly toward the empty chair at the table's end. That was his seat, the one who died last night, the one whose name has already stopped echoing. Someone makes a toast. You raise your cup, but you do not drink, and no one calls you out for it, because in this house, not drinking means you're still thinking, and thinking is survival. After the feast, they begin the ritual, not official, not spoken, but real. Each of you lights a taper, walks it to the old alcove, places it on the marble ledge beneath the statue of Saint Agatha. It's said she protects the bloodline, but her eyes are hollow and her mouth is gone, carved away years ago. You place your candle beside the others. You whisper nothing, but the wax drips like language anyway. You feel it trail down your fingers, warm, almost comforting. Then you leave, because staying longer means you see the other's hands trembling too. The corridor is dim. The torchlight leans sideways, casting long shadows where none should be. You walk slowly, your steps barely audible. You've learned how to walk like you don't exist. And tonight, that skill may matter. You reach your chamber. The door creaks, but only slightly. Inside, warmth. Someone lit the fire. Again, you glance to the corner. A robe is folded on the trunk. Not yours. You didn't put it there, and no one else should have. It's stitched with gold thread, the kind they stopped using 5 winters ago, after the fire in the eastern wing, the kind only he wore. You touch it. It's cold, but not untouched. You don't call for a servant. You don't scream. You fold it again, neater this time, and place it inside the trunk. Then close the lid slowly, as if you're putting something to rest. You sit at the edge of the bed. You run your fingers along the seam in the wood where someone once carved a word and then sanded it down. You think it said mercy, but no one says that word anymore. The fire pops. You jump, then exhale. You let your robe fall to the floor. You climb beneath the covers. They're warm, not from the fire, from something else. You lie still. You listen. There's a sound, a hum, low, rhythmic, almost like a lullaby, but without melody. It could be wind, could be breath, could be memory. You don't chase it. You let it come. You let it stay. You close your eyes, not because you're tired, but because the world behind them has become easier than the one around you. Sleep does not come quickly, but it does come, and for once, you do not fight it. You wake before dawn. Not because you meant to, because the dream ended. Too suddenly, too quietly, and silence in this place is rarely a gift. The fire is gone again, not dead, erased, not even an ember left in the stone. You pull the blanket tighter. It smells like cedar and dust, like memory, like someone else once used it before you were born, and no one ever said their name again. The light from the window is dull gray, not morning, not night. That space in between where shadows don't know which way to fall. You sit up, carefully, your body stiff, like it aged in your sleep. You hear footsteps, just one pair, soft, measured, stopping just outside your door. Then nothing. You wait. No knock, no call, just air. You don't move. You breathe slower because stillness is sometimes your only defense. Eventually, the presence fades, or pretends to. You rise. Your slippers are cold. The floor greets you like stone always does, not with pain, but with indifference. You walk toward the mirror. You don't want to, but you do. You look. The face is yours, but less so. Palace years are not counted in birthdays. They are counted in losses, and your face has kept them all. There's a mark near your jaw, a shadow or a bruise or something your bloodline left behind. You lean in, and you swear, just for a breath. Your reflection blinks slower than you do. You turn away. Some things do not need to be confirmed to be true. You dress in silence. Today's colors are black and violet, for mourning or tradition, or both. At court, no one speaks of the death anymore. Not the recent one, not the one before that, not the one buried beneath the western wall that cracked in last winter's freeze. You sit in your place, you drink nothing, you sign nothing. They thank you anyway, because presence is power, and absence is invitation. You notice the girl again, the maid with the quiet eyes. She's standing too straight, too still. She stares forward, not at you, but near you, as if something stands behind you. You do not turn. You never turn when that feeling returns. Later, in the garden, the wind picks up. Dry leaves spiral through the marble paths. A fountain trickles, too slow to be alive. You hear a voice. It doesn't speak a language you know, but it feels familiar, like a prayer from childhood, or a warning from a story they stopped telling too soon. You follow it, only a few steps, and then it stops. Not because you reached it, but because it chose to disappear. You sit on the stone bench. It's colder than you remember, or maybe you're just more tired than before. You run your fingers along the mossy edge. Someone carved something there. Letters, too shallow to read clearly, but deep enough to know they mattered. You close your eyes, and you think of everyone who ever sat here before you. The prince who vanished, the princess who wrote poems in a language she invented, the boy who laughed too loudly and was sent away. You wonder if they ever found peace, and if not, where their memories went. Because in this family, even echoes are inherited. The bells ring again that evening, not for mass, not for mourning, for remembrance, or maybe just routine. Even the bells have forgotten why they sing. You return to your chamber before the sun disappears completely. It's safer that way, not just outside, in the air, in the corridors, but inside you, because the dark brings more than night in this castle. It brings memory, it brings truth, and truth isn't always something you can survive. You light your candle yourself. The servant who normally does it was reassigned. No one tells you why. You don't ask. The wax drips too quickly. The flame leans to the side, as if afraid to stand upright. You draw the curtains closed, though the sky is already without light. Then, the ritual, not spoken, not written, but still, it lives. You place your shoes under the bed, left one slightly forward. You touch the base of the mirror once, without looking. You fold your robe at the foot of the bed, and you murmur a name under your breath, not your own, not anymore. You've done this every night for years. You don't remember how it started, only that the nights are worse when you forget. The fire crackles, but it doesn't warm you, not really. You sit at the writing table. The parchment is blank. The ink is dry, but still, your hand hovers over it like it remembers something your mind doesn't. You once wrote letters, many, some filled with longing, others with fear, a few with blood at the corner where your finger pricked on the edge in haste. None were answered. You burned them all, except the first, that one you hid behind the second floor panel in the armoire, where your mother used to press dried lavender. You haven't read it in years, but you remember every word, especially the last line. If anything happens, don't look for me, look above. You never understood what she meant, but you stopped looking anyway. Now the candle is lower. You crawl beneath the covers, linen, wool, silence. The ceiling above is still carved, but different. The shapes are no longer familiar. Where there were angels, you see branches. Where there were shields, there are now eyes, dozens of them, blinking slowly, or maybe not at all. You turn on your side. The pillow smells like wax and dust, and something else you can't name, something like absence. You close your eyes, just for a second, and in that second, you are somewhere else, not dreaming, not imagining, just remembering. You're standing in the east corridor. The forbidden one, the one sealed since the winter of screams. The windows are shattered, the tapestries hang torn, the floor is covered in petals that haven't wilted but aren't alive either. You walk slowly. Each step echoes louder than the last. Then you see it, a door, not tall, not grand, just wood, unmarked, slightly open. Inside, you hear breathing, not yours. You lean forward, you reach out, and just before your fingers touch the edge, you wake, not fast, not gasping, just awake, and the candle has gone out. The room is darker now, not just from the absence of flame, but from something else. The kind of darkness that feels aware. You sit up slowly. You don't reach for another candle. You let the black stay. You've lived long enough in this palace to know some things are better felt than seen. The air smells different, damp stone, ash, and something faintly sweet, like apples left out too long. Your bare feet find the floor. It greets you coldly, the kind of cold that rises through bone. You move toward the window. You don't open it. You don't need to. The fog outside presses against the glass like breath. You stare into it, and you think of your cousin, the one who vanished during a snowstorm, gone between prayers and supper, a boot found in the hedge, nothing else. They told you wolves took her, but wolves don't wear rings, and someone found her ring in the North Tower. Months later, still warm, you draw the curtain, and the silence deepens. Somewhere in the castle, something falls. A book, a goblet, a voice? It's hard to tell, and no one moves to check. No one ever does. You sit again. The mattress sighs under your weight, not from softness, from memory. It remembers you and everyone who came before. You run your fingers along the seams in the quilt. You count the stitches. 1, 2, 3. You stop at 21. That was your sister's age, the one they say drowned herself in the fountain, but her slippers were dry, and she left no note, only an unfinished song in the book beside her bed, written in a language no one speaks anymore. You've tried to hum the tune once. Your nose bled for 3 days after. Now you keep the silence. You lie back. The ceiling is still there, but the carvings have softened, blurred by the dark. You see shapes, not angels, not eyes, something else, something older. You breathe deeply, let the cold settle where it wants to, and still, you do not sleep, not yet. You remember the story of the princess who could not dream, not once, not ever. They filled her room with feathers, perfume, poetry. Still, her eyes stayed open. They said the gods cursed her or spared her. You're not sure which is worse. You pull the blanket to your chin. It's heavier now, not from fabric, from time. A knock, soft, not the door, the wall, 3 times. Then nothing. You say nothing. You close your eyes again, and this time you do not dream. You float, not forward, not backward, just still, just long enough to forget the walls, just long enough to forget your name, just long enough to rest. not as royalty, but as something finally, briefly human. The morning arrives like a memory you didn't ask to revisit. Not light, not warmth, just the dull glow of another day that feels exactly like the one before. You wake, not because you're rested, but because the silence becomes too loud. The candle is gone, so is the robe you folded, the one that didn't belong to you, the one you placed gently in the trunk. The trunk is now empty. The dust inside it is disturbed. You tell no one. You eat a fig at breakfast. Only one. It's sour, not sweet. The steward nods at you. He knows something. Always. You avoid his gaze. He served your grandfather and your grandfather's father, and, if rumor is true, one other man before names were recorded with ink. You pass through the gallery on your way back to your chamber. The portraits stare, they always do, but today one is missing. You stop. Third from the left, the woman in blue with the cracked pearl necklace. Gone. The space where she once hung is bare, as if she was never there at all. You ask no one. No one asks you. By now, even the tapestries have learned to forget. The rest of the day moves in soft fragments. You walk the garden path. Dead vines wrap around the arches like the fingers of old regrets. You hear the gardener humming, low, tuneless. He's been blind for years, but still trims better than those who see. He doesn't bow. You like that. He's the only one who speaks to the earth instead of the bloodline. At the fountain, you see something, a coin, too clean, no rust, no age, fresh, placed with purpose. You don't touch it, because some wishes should stay buried. You return indoors before the bell for vespers. The corridor smells of rosemary again. You pause. The last time you smelled rosemary, someone didn't wake up the next day. You tell yourself it's just a memory, but memory has a scent, and tonight it's strong. In your chamber, the mirror is covered. Not by you. The cloth is heavy. You do not remove it. Instead, you light the fire, slowly, intentionally. The sound of the flame comforts you more than its heat. You sit by the hearth. You speak aloud, just once, a name, not one you've said in years, not even inside your own head. You wait for something to happen. Nothing does, and still, you feel answered. You lie in bed early, not because you're tired, but because sleep feels like the only place left untouched by ceremony. Your pillow is softer tonight, not familiar, but kind. The window fogs with your breath. You reach up, draw a small circle in the condensation, a habit from childhood. You used to pretend the circle was a portal, to escape, to start over, to be someone who didn't carry a name heavier than their bones. You pull the blanket to your collarbone, you close your eyes, and for the first time in a long while, you do not feel watched, only held, by the stillness, by the dark, by something older than your lineage. You breathe, and the castle breathes with you. You do not know how long you slept. But when you wake, the room has shifted. It hasn't moved, but it's changed. The fire is low again. Only embers now, soft and orange, like the inside of a dream you can't quite remember. The curtain you closed is now half open, just slightly, just enough to let the moon find your face. You do not get up. You watch the moonlight stretch across the floor, silver spilling over stone, quiet as breath. You think of your aunt, the one they kept in the south wing, the one no one visited. They said she had visions. They said she spoke in tongues. They said she knew too much, But when you were small, she gave you a carved bird made from olive wood and told you, if you wake up and the moon is watching, don't blink. You never knew what she meant until now. You don't blink. You just lie there, still, calm, heavy with meaning you don't understand. The wind outside sighs against the window, not howling, not threatening, just present. The castle is breathing again, and tonight it breathes with you. You think of all the footsteps that have crossed this floor, all the whispers trapped in these walls. You imagine each tile holding a secret. The girl who ran, the man who hid, the servant who listened too long. Every stone under this roof has seen more than you ever will, and still, it says nothing. That's what royalty is in the end. Not rule, not reverence, but the art of saying nothing until it becomes a language. You turn to your side. The pillow accepts your weight. The blanket does not resist. For a moment, your mind is quiet. No titles, no ghosts, no weight, just you. And that's rare, because even your silence belongs to the crown. You remember the letter, the one you never sent, folded 3 times, hidden beneath the 3rd drawer in your old writing desk. It said only, I am still here. You wonder if someone will find it after you're gone. You wonder if they'll understand what it means, or if they'll read it out loud and feel cold for no reason. Your body softens again, not because the world is better, but because you've made peace with the part that isn't. That's what sleep is now, not escape, not relief, just surrender, a kind of letting go you've only recently learned. You exhale, the candle flickers one last time, and the shadows settle into place. You do not reach for them, you let them be, because some shadows are just memories resting, and tonight, so are you. You wake again, but it's different this time. You didn't hear anything. There was no dream, no creak, no call, just awareness, like something invited you back into your body. You blink once. The ceiling is pale gray now, not moonlight, not firelight, just the light that arrives when night is almost over, but not quite ready to leave. You stay in bed, because for the first time, it feels like the safest place. Your chamber is still. No wind, no footsteps, no shift of shadows. Only the weight of the blanket. Only the soft rhythm of your breath. Only the quiet presence of you. You remember the stories of the cursed twins. 2 brothers born at midnight, one raised to rule, the other to disappear. They say their hearts beat at the same rhythm until the day one stopped. They say the surviving twin still walks these halls, not aging, not speaking, just looking for a reason. You've never seen him. But sometimes you feel something at your back when you pass the mirror, a warmth, or a chill, or a thought that isn't yours. You don't fear it. You just carry it like everything else. You close your eyes again, not to sleep, but to feel. You listen inward to the memories that no longer sting, to the names you no longer say, to the parts of yourself that you had to bury just to survive the name you inherited. And they're all still here. The boy who loved snow, the girl who played music for the dying, the version of you that smiled once when no one was watching. You are still all of them, even now, even under linen, even under blood, even under history. You turn your head slightly. The pillow has cooled on one side. You press your cheek into it, and you let the weight of the moment hold you. There is no council meeting, no ceremony, no parchment, no robe, only quiet. And in this rare, impossible quiet, you let go. Not of memory, not of self, just of resistance. You exhale once, a long, steady breath, and you surrender again to the night, to the bed, to the truth that being royal never meant being whole. But tonight, in this stillness, you are more whole than you've ever been. And no one has to know. The candle is gone, the wick curled in on itself, like a secret it decided not to share. The wax cooled without permission, the flame vanished without sound, and still you remain, not fully awake, not fully dreaming, somewhere in between, where the walls breathe slower, where memory floats instead of presses, where your name doesn't hurt as much to carry. You shift slightly under the covers. You don't mean to, but the blanket whispers as it moves, and for a moment, you remember your sister's laugh. The real one, before the illness, before the silence, before the nameplate on the tomb cracked in the frost. She used to laugh like water falling over stone, quiet, but impossible to ignore. They say she went mad, but maybe she simply told the truth too loudly. And truth in this castle is a kind of curse all on its own. You sit up slowly. Your bones creak like the library floor. Your breath fogs the air. The dawn hasn't come, but the sky is trying. That soft gray pink that happens just before light wins the argument with the dark. You place your feet on the floor. The stone greets you coldly. Predictable. There is comfort in knowing what will not change. You walk to the mirror. The cloth is still covering it. You don't remove it. You nod once to your reflection you cannot see and turn away. Because sometimes facing yourself can wait. You open the small drawer in the nightstand. There is nothing inside, but it still feels heavier than it should. You close it again, slowly, with intention. You dress in quiet. No servant enters, none are needed. The robe is simple, dark, warm, unadorned. It reminds you of someone who never wanted a crown, but wore one anyway. Someone who sat in this room once, long before you, and probably longer than you'll remain. You open the chamber door. No one waits for you. No footsteps echo. No summons arrive. For this moment, you are free. You walk the west corridor, the one lit by glass windows instead of torchlight. Outside, the trees are black silhouettes against a sky trying to remember blue. You walk past the corridor's end, beyond the chapel, beyond the war room, beyond where your name matters. There's a door. You open it. It creaks, but not out of protest, out of memory. Inside is dust and age and something like peace. You sit on the bench beside the forgotten hearth. There's no fire, just stone and soot, but for some reason, it's the warmest place you've felt in days. You rest your hands on your knees, you look straight ahead, and you say nothing. Because here, silence is holy. You breathe once, and the world does not collapse. It simply exhales with you. The stillness in this room is different. It's not silence. It's not absence. It's presence. The kind that fills the space like breath, like candle smoke long after the flame is gone. You sit with it, not because you have to, but because for once you want to. No title weighs on your shoulders right now. No crown, no name, just you, just the person beneath the robe, beneath the bloodline, beneath the legacy you never asked for. Your hands lie still in your lap. There is no tremble. There is no need to gesture, no need to command. You simply are. You look to the far wall. It's blank, stone, cracked faintly down the middle, old marks from years past. Maybe clawed, maybe carved. No one remembers, but someone once did, and that's enough. There's a cobweb in the corner, undisturbed, delicate, perfect. It shines slightly in the soft morning light, and for some reason, it makes you want to weep. You don't, but you let the weight rise and fall inside your chest like a tide, and when it settles, you're still whole. That surprises you. You shift your shoulders slightly. The robe creases with the sound of thick fabric, the kind spun for rulers, but worn by prisoners. That's the thing about being royal. You learn quickly. Power is a kind of cage, a larger one, gold bars instead of iron, but bars all the same. Someone once said the blood of kings runs hot. They were wrong. It runs quiet, it runs heavy, and it runs scared. Every ruler you've known, every statue, every name stitched into banners, they all learned to hide that fear so well that it began to look like wisdom. You smile faintly, not because it's funny, but because it's true. And truth deserves a smile, even if it's a small one, especially in a house where truth rarely survives past sunset. The fireless hearth before you is still black with ash. You watch it, and as you do, you wonder how many voices were hushed here, how many prayers whispered through cracked lips, how many promises made that never made it past morning. You lie back against the wall. It's rough. It's real. And for a moment, you feel free, not because the curse is gone, but because you've made room for it. You are no longer pretending it isn't there. You are no longer running from it. You are simply breathing with it. You inhale slowly, and the room inhales with you. You close your eyes, and the world doesn't vanish. It softens, like snow falling on stone, like candlelight behind a veil, like a lullaby you never learned the words to, but somehow always knew the tune. This is sleep. Not the kind they write about, not the kind bought by potions or whispered away by priests. This is earned sleep, worn sleep, royal sleep, and you are finally ready to wear it. Your body doesn't move, not because it can't, but because it doesn't need to. The stone behind your back feels less cold now. Your hands rest quietly in your lap, not clenched, not hidden, just resting. You're not sure how long you've been sitting here, but time isn't measured in minutes anymore. Not in this place, not in this silence. It's measured in heartbeats, in breaths, in moments that don't ask to be remembered, but are anyway. You hear a bird outside, just one. Its voice is thin, like it's not sure the world is ready to listen yet. You don't open your eyes. You let the sound move through you, as if it's waking something that's been asleep longer than you have. A thought rises, uninvited, but gentle. You remember the story of your great-grandmother, the one who ruled before the fire, before the famine, before the walls grew thicker and the nights longer. They said she used to sing, not publicly, never where it could be used against her, but quietly, to the moon, to her children, to herself. You try to imagine her voice, but all you hear is your own breath. And somehow, that's enough, because for all the blood spilled in the name of your family, all the curses whispered across generations, all the names erased and rewritten and erased again. You are still here, and in this room, in this moment, you are not a crown, you are not a symbol, you are not a story. You are simply here, alive, aware, awake, but ready to fall again, and that is rare. You shift slowly. Your shoulder brushes the stone. It doesn't flinch, neither do you. There's a softness inside you now, like moss growing where fire used to burn, like something beginning. You stand, not out of duty, out of choice. The air meets your skin like a memory returning home. You walk toward the window. The sky is clear now, pale, open. You press your fingers to the glass, not to escape, just to remember how it feels to touch something that doesn't expect anything in return. You close your eyes one last time, not because you're finished, but because the world will wait. Sleep will come, softly, slowly, like it always should have. And when it does, you'll no longer be the prince, or the heir, or the ghost of a name someone else carved into the crown. You'll be something smaller, quieter, real, and that, finally, will be enough. There is no sound now, no echo, no bird song, not even the wind, only breath, yours and the castle's, and maybe something older than both. You walk the halls again, not in haste, not in fear, in peace. The stones beneath your feet recognize you, not as royalty, not as heir, but as someone who stayed, someone who endured. You reach the long corridor with the faded tapestries, the ones no one dares mend, as if the stories they hold would unravel if touched. You run your hand along the wall. The chill has faded. There's warmth here now, faint, earned. You pause before the portrait that no longer exists, the woman in blue. Her space is still empty, but you remember her face, because once, when you were very small, you stood too close to the frame, and her eyes, they moved, just once, just slightly, but it was enough. You whisper a thank you, and the silence accepts it. You walk past the chapel. The candles have all burned down, wicks curled, ash waiting to be swept. No one mourns this morning, not aloud, but you feel it, like a pulse beneath the floor. The castle remembers everyone, even those the ledgers forgot. You stop at the garden door. It creaks, familiar now, not haunting. You step outside. The light is soft, the kind that doesn't try to impress, just arrives. You take it in, not as ruler, not as prisoner, not even as descendant, just as someone with lungs and skin and the capacity to feel the sun and not flinch. You walk past the fountain. The water is still. A single leaf floats on its surface, and in that stillness, you see everything, not clearly, not sharply, but truly. The lives that came before you, the names you carry, the fears you've silenced, all resting together, all breathing softly beneath your feet. You kneel, not to pray, not to ask, just to be lower than the world for a moment, to let go of the height, the title, the weight. Your fingers graze the grass. It is wet, cool, alive, and you remember, finally, what that means. You close your eyes, and the castle exhales again, not in pain, not in sorrow, in peace, because for the first time in a long time, so do you. You remain still, kneeling by the fountain, hands damp from dew, eyes closed, not in fear, but in surrender. You are not waiting for an answer. You're not hoping for a sign. You're simply breathing. And for once, it feels like enough. The past no longer presses against your spine. The future no longer tugs at your sleeve. There is only this soft moment where everything falls silent and you realize you're not cursed. Not really. You were just born in a place that forgot how to speak gently, that mistook duty for destiny, that feared softness so much it turned every air into a shadow. You stand, not quickly, not proudly, but whole. The sun touches your cheek, and it doesn't burn, it warms. You walk slowly through the garden. The gravel crunches beneath your feet, a quiet, steady rhythm, like the heartbeat of a house that's always been alive. You pass the statue of the lion, its face weathered, mouth cracked, eyes still fierce. You nod to it, and somehow it feels like it nods back. At the stone gate, you pause, not to look back, not to say goodbye, but because something inside you wants to stay 1 second longer in a place where you're no longer afraid to breathe. And then you step through. The path beyond is still, empty, not lonely, just ready. And so are you. Back in your chamber, the bed is untouched, the fire is out, the air is soft. You lie down slowly. The blanket folds around you like a memory that doesn't hurt anymore. Your head finds the pillow like it's known this moment for centuries. You turn to one side, then still. Your body understands what your mind finally accepts. It's time to rest, truly. Not out of exhaustion, not out of defeat, but because there is no need to hold anything anymore. The silence in the room is kind. It doesn't press. It doesn't ask. It simply is. You let your limbs grow heavy. You let your chest rise, then fall. You do not count the breaths. You do not listen for footsteps. You are safe, for once and maybe always. You are safe. You don't move. You don't need to. Everything that once asked for your attention, the duties, the names, the ghosts, the golden weight of being seen, they've all grown quiet, not vanished, not erased, just softer now, like distant bells heard through snow. You feel your chest rise again, and this time, it doesn't feel like effort. It feels like permission to let go, of roles, of history, of the idea that sleep must be earned. You've earned nothing. You've survived everything. That's enough. The candle is gone, the fire cold, the room wrapped in a hush that feels sacred. You could reach for a thought. You could pull at memory, but you don't, because even thoughts are resting now. Your body sinks deeper into linen, deeper into warmth, deeper into a peace your ancestors never knew how to hold. And maybe that's the quiet triumph. You didn't change the crown. You didn't lift the curse, but you chose rest in a house that forgot what rest meant. You chose sleep when every room was built to keep you alert. And now, sleep has chosen you back. You feel it in your shoulders, your fingertips, your breath, slow, steady, soft. You are not a name anymore. You are not the echo of a throne. You are not history's next lesson. You are breath. You are body. You are being. You are here, and it is safe to close your eyes. Not halfway, not cautiously, fully, completely. The castle will remain. The ghosts will wander. The world will turn. But none of that belongs to you now. You belong only to this moment, to this stillness, to this beautiful, heavy, sacred sleep. So fall, let go, float down, sink slow. You've done enough. You are enough, and you are asleep.